I saw this movie last week on Monday, and finally I get to talk about it. Boy, it was epic. Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Finally, we get a Star Wars movie, and it's not the prequels. And thankfully, it's J.J. Abrams, who I really like as a director. So when I heard he was in the project and how I liked his version of Star Trek, I thought, you know what? We're in good hands. Especially when the trailers didn't ruin the plots. So I'm not going to ruin it for you if you haven't seen Star Wars yet. I know a few people that have not seen it, so I will not spoil it in case you are watching this review. A new organization has rose from the ashes of the Empire, and they are the New Order. They are doing everything in their path to try to find Luke Skywalker, who has vanished. And yet again, there is another group of resistance fighters trying to stop this evil New Order. And this whole movie revolves around the possible existence of a map leading to Luke Skywalker. And a few individuals, a few new characters are all thrown into the mix and get caught up in this conflict. Look, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so much that I kind of liked the prequels a little bit. I don't think they're horrible, awful atrocities, but I feel at least 2 of them are closer to 2 stars, while the rest of the Star Wars movie, the other 4, are at least 4 stars or higher. So I was completely stoked for this film. I was hoping it wouldn't be a disappointment, but I trusted J.J. Abrams, and he delivered. This has a very classic Star Wars feel to the whole thing. The music, the characters, the set designs, the alien worlds, even the frickin' transitions are so frickin' similar to the original trilogy. And while there is CGI in it, it is very realistic. And I know you could be saying, hey, those movies were when CGI wasn't all that good, and hey, of course it's good CGI because it's 2015. But let's face it, there are some 2015 movies that have a big budget and still have absolutely crappy CG. But even though it has that classic feel that feels like it just picked off right where the original trilogy left off, J.J. Abrams has actually managed to have some of his directing style still be in it and still feel like Star Wars. There is certain lighting and camera angles and different action-packed scenes where I look at it and I can't help but feel this is totally J.J. Abrams. I think it's really hard for a director to not only match the feel of a big franchise, but also add a little bit of himself and how he directs movies into it and make it mesh perfectly. Listen, if you were bored with the prequels, yeah, this movie is non-stop action. Even more non-stop action than Fury Road. This is more action-packed than Mad Max. So much so that it can be exhausting for those that doesn't like non-stop action, but there are a few breathing moments, just not as many breathing moments as Mad Max Fury Road. There is ultimately a lot of nostalgia in this film, a lot of moments that are clearly meant to make us feel nostalgic, and a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of parallels to the older movies. It's all there. Maybe it could be argued it's so many parallels that it could be almost a complete copy of A New Hope from time to time, but I never felt that way. That's the thing about paralleling another movie. It has the potential of being called a copycat. And ultimately, it's the viewer to decide. If they don't like parallels, most people will probably think, okay, this is just copying too much from the other films. But I never felt that way. I felt there were really nice parallels, and yes, it's another Journey of a Hero, so it's going to have the same basic beats that are in a Journey of a Hero, such as the mentor and all the things that make up a hero's journey is in this film. And in fact, there is two hero journeys in this film, one being Finn and one being Rey, which is easily the two new main characters of this film, and both were really great. Acting-wise, hands down, really great throughout this movie. And a lot of cameos from some really A-list and some really great actors and actresses. Even some of the people that were actually ultimately extras in this film that might get bigger parts by the end of the trilogy, I was looking at him and I'm like, hey, I know that guy. He's in quite a few things. Hey, and you know what? Daniel Craig even makes an appearance in this film. I know you might hear some rumors and leaks about it. Yeah, he is. You don't see his face, so really pay attention to the voice of one of the stormtroopers. That's all I'm gonna say. The stormtroopers, the New Order, is actually really menacing in this film. Granted, in this film, they're pretty much chasing the main heroes through ultimately 2/3 of the movie. So it makes sense why they feel more intense and more in your face and more dangerous. But also, they can actually shoot people. Even main characters. I could really understand the motivations of all the characters, including some of the villains like Kylo Ren. And let's face it, Rey and Finn actually definitely feel more like main characters and more complex characters than even some of the original trilogy characters in the original trilogy, because they definitely feel like they're dealing with some internal conflict as well as the ultimate conflict of the movie. So is Kylo Ren, actually. He's a really complex villain, and I really enjoyed him. And Oscar Isaac as Poe was amazing and such a badass as well. But I will not forget some of his scenes because they're just so epic. Which I have to speak a little bit about because, yeah, the action was really good in this film, and it has to be for a film that's so much non-stop action. I feel the standout action scenes for me was a scene after the destruction of a cantina-like moment. Yeah, it's this moment where people are dealing with ground troops while this huge aerial battle is happening, and you see a little bit in the trailer. It's one of the few action scenes in a Star Wars film where you actually see the epic scale of it and feel like they're in the same world. Star Wars has had moments where there are parallel battles happening at once and in the same environment, but this is one of the first times where it feels like they truly share the same environment, because you can see everything in the air, all these close-up battles, and you see them spraying down at the characters below, while still having your close battles with all the characters and the close battles up in the air. It's really epic to scale. Now I have to say, the lightsaber sequence at the end, one of the best lightsaber sequences in the Star Wars franchise, hands down. And that's because it combines what's kind of good about the prequel lightsaber battles as well as what's good with the original trilogy lightsaber battles, because it's very brutal, it's very basic, it's very emotional filled, but at least it's long enough that it feels like it's not just, oh, you're dead. I have to say, people were really getting injured throughout this battle, and it's quite evenly matched. It doesn't feel like it's one-sided, or it doesn't feel like people aren't really getting hurt and it's just a long battle of them just hitting swords and not getting hurt. Yeah, there's a lot of injuries in that lightsaber battle. And yes, there are twists and turns and things that could technically be spoiled, which I'm not going to, but they are pretty predictable if you think of the journey of a hero's structure line, and if you think about how it would affect the movie if something else were to happen. Hands down, Star Wars The Force Awakens is one of my favorite movies of this year, and probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I have no real issues with the film. I can understand why some people will, and I can understand people not liking it as much as I do, but I have to say, for me, the Star Wars The Force Awakens is 5 stars. I know whoever plans on seeing this movie already has it in their head whether they want to go or not So have you seen Star Wars The Force Awakens yet? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. I would love to discuss the Star Wars movie in more detail with you if you have questions and comments. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.